Tonight, my dad and I are making a cross-country flight to Naples to see if we can catch a Gulf Coast sunset. We're going to be flying in Cherokee 30877, which is 1978 Piper Archer II with 180 horsepower. Knocked out our pre-flight, made sure that the airplane was ready and safe to fly. The weather's gorgeous and I'm sure we're going to have a great flight. This is a little bittersweet for me because my dad heads north next week and it'll be the last time we fly together for several months. Got our ATIS information and then switched over to Pompano ground so we could pick up VFR flight following to Naples. I always like to get flight following whenever I do more than just a local flight. It's always nice to have that extra set of eyes. Taxied on the ramp over to spot 2 so we could pick up our taxi clearance. Expected, we were instructed to taxi to runway 10 via taxiways Lima and Alpha, crossing runway 6 at Lima. Completed our run-up without issue, and then taxied over to hold short of runway 10, complete our pre-takeoff checklist, and get ready to go. A departure to the east on runway 10 is always one of my favorites. Take off towards the ocean, and when you get about 400 or 500 feet, you make a left crosswind turn right over the intercoastal. It's always a spectacular view, even more so on a nice day like today. After the crosswind turn, we made a left turn out to the west and continued climbing up to our cruising altitude of 4,500. We also switched over to Miami departure so we could pick up flight following for the trip across the alley. Looking back to the east on our climb out, got a spectacular view of the Fort Lauderdale skyline and the entire Broward County shore. Track the Hillsborough Canal westbound until we get out over the eastern Everglades. At that point, we'll reach Shank intersection, we'll turn to the southwest, and eventually intercept Interstate 75, follow that all the way into Naples. The weather was spectacular for most of the flight. As we got past the halfway point, I noticed a couple of pop-up storms on the radar that we might have to divert around. At that point, ATC alerted us to the area of heavy precipitation just south of I-75 and the other area to the north. Our present heading would take us right between the two storms. However, we'd have to descend to 3,000 to stay below the clouds and maintain VFR. Fortunately for us, the weather was gorgeous as we came out on the other side. As we got closer to Naples, I switched over to get our ATIS information. Meantime, I looked over to the right, and Dad's checking out the Red Sox game. He must think he's on JetBlue. At that point, I put Dad to work, having him read off the pre-landing checklist. ATC asked us to enter the pattern on a left base for runway 23, then asked us to make a left 360 to allow spacing for a faster Hawker that was on a 4-mile final. Made our turn, got the aircraft configured for landing, and lined up on final. I really messed up this approach. We had a crosswind, and as I was beginning to transition to round out and flare, I did not leave the right aileron correction in. We drifted left, and as a result, I had to go around. But we were rewarded with some spectacular scenery, so it wasn't all bad. Well, I was a little disappointed with myself for making what I consider a rookie mistake. There wasn't time to dwell on it. We had to get set up and do it again. Second time's the charm. After a much better landing, we taxied over to the FBO to top off with fuel. On a relatively short flight like this, I wouldn't normally get a fuel top off, but I wasn't sure what those storms were going to do. There was a chance we might have to divert, and I did not want fuel to be an issue. While the good folks at Naples Aviation took care of the airplane, we went inside to stretch our legs, get some air, grab a beverage, and hang with the jet set. While we were on the ground, the storms continued to move north so they would not impact our route home. What had been planned as a daylight flight was now going to be made after dark. Completed our pre-flight, got our ATIS information, and clearance to taxi. Looks like we'd be taking off on runway 23, right into that sunset that we were chasing. We were now clear for takeoff, so I lined us up on the runway, put the power to full, and lifted off. As we lifted off the runway and climbed to about 300 feet, we were treated to this breathtaking Gulf Coast sunset. As we continued our climb and prepared to turn eastbound, I could see why they refer to Naples and Southwest Florida as the Paradise Coast. The history of Naples goes back thousands of years to the Calusa Indians who first interacted with Spanish explorers in the 1500s. Modern history dates back to the 1880s when ads in northern magazines and newspapers praised the area and compared it to Naples, Italy, hence the name. The city continued to develop slowly until the Roaring Twenties when roads and railroads finally made their way to the city, spurring growth. The Tamiami Trail, connecting Tampa to Miami, was completed in 1928, passing right through the city. As we made our way eastbound, we tracked Alligator Alley, the main east-west thoroughfare connecting Naples to Fort Lauderdale. It was a smooth flight across the Everglades, and apparently the Red Sox were winning. Because our approach and arrival in Pompano would be after 9 o'clock, the tower was closed, so we'd be using the CTAF, or Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, to announce our position and intentions. The winds were 140 at 9 knots, which meant we'd be landing on runway 15 on essentially a straight-in approach. No other traffic, and we had the airport all to ourselves. With Dad reading off the checklist, I configured the airplane for landing and lined her up on short final. After a nice smooth touchdown, we let it roll out to the end of the runway, turning off on taxiway Lima, which would take us right in to our ramp. After a quick stop at the self-serve fuel dock, it was time to tie the airplane down for the night and head for home. That was a fun flight. We had a beautiful flight after dark. Just a picture-perfect night to fly. Could not have picked a better night for Dad and I to make our last flight together till the fall.